Welcome to LovexRomancexRevenge, the home of secret identities, forbidden love, emotional betrayals, and unforgettable romance. If you love stories where love is tested by lies, power, and fate, subscribe now, like this video, and turn on notifications so you never miss a story that will break your heart and heal it again. Now, let's begin. Rain fell in relentless sheets that Thursday night, blurring the streetlights into trembling halos of gold and white. The scent of wet asphalt mixed with burnt sugar from the ovens of Amara's corner bakery, still warm from the evening rush. Inside, chaos reigned. Her younger brother lay on the tiled floor, pale and shaking, blood seeping through the torn fabric of his shirt. Amara knelt beside him, her hands slick and trembling, her mind screaming louder than the storm outside. "Please, please don't close your eyes," she whispered, brushing damp curls from his forehead. The siren arrived before hope did. A sharp, cutting wail split through the rain, growing louder, closer, until red and blue lights flooded the bakery windows like a warning from fate itself. The ambulance screeched to a halt outside, its doors flying open before the engine even died. Two figures jumped out, but it was him that Amara noticed. Broad-shouldered, drenched in rain but utterly unshaken. His movements were precise, almost graceful, as if panic had no permission to exist around him. The words paramedic gleamed faintly on his uniform as he knelt beside her brother, snapping on gloves with practiced ease. "Ma'am, I need you to look at me," he said. His voice wasn't loud. It didn't need to be. It carried authority without cruelty, calm without coldness. "I'm Ethan," he continued, eyes meeting hers. "I'm going to take care of him. I promise." Something in his gaze, steady, unwavering, anchored her. Her frantic breathing slowed. She nodded, barely trusting her voice. "Please," was all she managed. Ethan worked quickly, efficiently, speaking softly to her brother, keeping him awake, measuring vitals, applying pressure. Every movement told a story of experience and restraint. He didn't rush, but he didn't waste a second. As they loaded her brother into the ambulance, Ethan turned back to her. "Ride with us," he said gently. "He'll want to see you when he wakes." She didn't remember climbing inside. Only the rhythmic sound of the siren and the way Ethan's hand briefly steadied her shoulder as the vehicle lurched forward. That touch, firm, grounding, stayed with her. At the hospital, time blurred into fluorescent lights and whispered prayers. Doctors moved fast. Doors closed. Amara paced until her legs ached and her throat burned from holding back tears. Ethan appeared again, removing his gloves, his expression tired but reassuring. "He's stable," he said. "He lost a lot of blood, but he's strong. He'll make it." Amara's knees nearly gave out. She pressed her palms to her face, a sob escaping before she could stop it. Ethan stayed. Not because he had to. His shift had ended. The other paramedic had already left. But he stayed. He brought her water, sat beside her in silence, let her cry without trying to fix the unfixable. "I should be stronger," she murmured at one point, staring at the scuffed hospital floor. Ethan shook his head. "You already are." She looked at him, then really looked. Tired eyes. A faint scar near his temple. The quiet kind of hands that saved lives without needing applause. "Thank you," she said. "For what?" "For not treating this like just another call." His lips curved into a small, almost sad smile. "Some calls aren't just calls." Outside, the rain had slowed to a drizzle when they finally stepped out of the hospital. The night felt different, softer somehow. Ethan walked her home. Not because she asked. Because he sensed she shouldn't be alone. They spoke of little things. Her bakery. His job. Nothing personal. Nothing deep. Yet every step felt like something important was beginning. At her door she hesitated. "I don't even know your last name," she said with a nervous laugh. "Cole," he replied. "Ethan Cole." She repeated it softly, as if memorizing the sound. "Good night, Ethan." "Good night, Amara." As he walked away, She watched until his figure disappeared into the streetlight glow. She didn't know why her heart was racing. She didn't know this man carried a secret powerful enough to change her life. All she knew was this. On the worst night of her life, a man in uniform arrived. And everything after would never be the same. Love didn't arrive like a storm. It arrived quietly, between early mornings and late nights, between burnt pastries and ambulance sirens, between conversations that never tried too hard. Ethan began stopping by Amara's corner bakery on his days off, always at odd hours, always in uniform or jeans so worn they looked older than they were. He never asked for discounts, never lingered too long. He ordered the same thing every time. Black coffee, 1 croissant, and he always paid in cash. At first, Amara told herself she noticed him because he had saved her brother's life. Gratitude, nothing more. But gratitude didn't explain the way her pulse quickened when the door chimed, or how she began baking extra croissants without realizing it. One quiet afternoon she finally asked, "Do you ever get tired of saving people?" Ethan looked up from his coffee, surprised. "Every day," he admitted. "But I'd be more tired if I didn't." She smiled then. It was the first time she saw something soft break through his careful calm. Their relationship grew in the spaces between chaos. He helped her close the bakery when deliveries ran late. She packed him meals for overnight shifts. They talked about books, favorite childhood foods, the places they'd never been. But Ethan never talked about his past. When she asked about his family, he'd answer carefully. Too carefully. "They're complicated," he said once, staring out her apartment window at the city lights. "We're not close." She didn't push. Some wounds deserved silence. They fell into a rhythm that felt safe, almost sacred. A modest life, quiet love. Ethan moved in after 6 months. Not with fanfare or flowers. Just a duffel bag and a shy smile. "I don't have much," he said. Amara laughed. "Neither do I." And she meant it. Their apartment was small. The heater worked when it wanted to. The couch sagged in the middle. But it was warm. It was honest. He insisted on splitting everything down the middle, even when she knew his salary barely covered it. "I don't want you carrying me," he said gently. She didn't realize then how ironic those words were. There were moments, small, almost invisible, that didn't quite fit. Ethan received calls that changed his posture instantly. His voice would lower. His eyes would harden. He always stepped outside to answer. When she asked, he said, "Work stuff." Once she found a watch in his drawer. Sleek, expensive, unmistakably out of place. "This isn't Paramedic gear," she teased. He froze for half a second, then smiled. "Old gift," he said. "From a life I don't live anymore." She believed him. Because she trusted him. The proposal came on a night neither of them planned. They were on the roof of her building, eating takeout under a sky smeared with stars. Ethan was quieter than usual. His hands shook slightly as he reached into his jacket pocket. "This isn't how I imagined it," he said. Amara frowned. "Imagined what?" He dropped to one knee. The ring wasn't extravagant. Simple. Elegant. Almost humble. "I don't have much to offer," Ethan said, his voice barely steady. "No promises of luxury. No grand future." He swallowed. "But I can promise you truth, loyalty, and a love that doesn't walk away." Amara didn't let him finish. She said yes before he could doubt himself. She didn't see the way his eyes briefly closed, like a man making peace with something he could never say out loud. Marriage settled into something gentle. Early mornings, shared breakfast, notes tucked into lunch bags. Ethan worked long hours, sometimes double shifts, sometimes emergency calls that pulled him away in the middle of the night. He came home exhausted, bruised, silent, but always grateful. Amara learned to love the quiet. But even quiet can echo. One evening she joked, "You work like a man trying to support a family of 10. Ethan smiled faintly. "Old habits." "What habits?" "Surviving." She laughed. The moment passed. But later that night as he slept, his phone buzzed again. A name she didn't recognize. A message she didn't read. And a sense, deep in her chest, that the man she loved was standing with one foot in a world she had never seen. Still, when he kissed her forehead before work the next morning, she whispered, "Be safe." And he replied as always, "I'll come back." She didn't know how heavy that promise truly was. The elevator doors slid open without a sound. Ethan, no Nathaniel, stood alone inside, his reflection staring back at him from the mirrored walls. The paramedic uniform was gone. In its place was a charcoal suit tailored to perfection, the kind that fit like armor rather than clothing. He barely recognized himself. The building rose 50 stories into the sky, all glass and steel, bearing the name Crowe Medical Holdings in bold, polished letters across the lobby. He had avoided this place for years, long enough that the city had begun to whisper that the heir was gone for good. But empires do not forget their kings. The doors opened again. Every conversation in the boardroom stopped. Executives turned. Advisors straightened. Lawyers closed their folders. A woman at the head of the table rose slowly, her expression tight with relief and fury all at once. "You finally decided to show up," she said. Nathaniel met her gaze. "I never left. I just stopped answering." Murmurs rippled across the room. The screen behind him lit up with financial charts. Losses, projections, red lines dipping lower each quarter. The empire was bleeding. Crowe Medical Holdings was crumbling without its CEO. Years earlier, Nathaniel Crowe had walked away from everything this room represented. Raised in wealth so vast it suffocated. His childhood had been measured in expectations instead of affection. His parents' marriage had been a transaction, two powerful families merging legacies, not lives. He learned early that love in their world was a liability. When his father died, the company passed to him overnight. And it nearly destroyed him. Boardrooms replaced birthdays. Headlines replaced friendships. Every relationship came with a question mark. Do they want me, or what I control? So he vanished. Changed his name, trained as a paramedic, started saving lives with his hands instead of ruling them with signatures. And for the first time he felt real. Nathaniel placed his hands on the table now, steady and commanding. "Why wasn't I informed about the acquisition in Sao Paulo?" he asked. A stunned executive stammered. We assumed you wouldn't object." "You assumed wrong." The room fell silent. The voice that spoke was not Ethan's quiet reassurance. It was the voice of power. He moved through the agenda with surgical precision, unraveling poor decisions, issuing orders that snapped the company back into alignment. This was the man the board had been waiting for. The strategist, the leader, the Crowe heir. Yet beneath the calm authority, his chest felt tight. Because while the empire needed him, Amara had no idea where he was. Across town, Amara balanced a tray of pastries as she stepped into the hospital's executive wing, responding to a last-minute catering request. The hallway buzzed with anticipation. Security, staff, whispers. "What's going on?" she asked a nurse. "The CEO's back," the nurse whispered. "Nathaniel Crowe. He disappeared years ago." Amara smiled politely, uninterested, until the doors to the conference hall opened. And she heard his voice. Familiar. Steady. Her heart skipped, confused, irrational. She stepped forward. And froze. On the massive screen at the front of the room was a man in a tailored suit, standing beneath the words, "Welcome back, Sir Nathaniel Crowe." It was her husband. The tray slipped from her hands. Pastries hit the floor. Gasps filled the room. Nathaniel turned. Their eyes met across the distance, hers wide with disbelief, his filled with a terror no boardroom had ever inspired. In that moment, two worlds collided. The paramedic she married, and the CEO he had never stopped being. Neither could exist without destroying the other. The meeting dissolved into chaos. Nathaniel tried to reach her, but security and stunned executives stood frozen between them. Amara backed away slowly, her mind screaming. Ethan doesn't exist. My husband isn't real. Every late shift, every secret call, every lie. She turned and ran. Nathaniel followed but stopped. Because for the first time in his life, power couldn't save him. That night, the apartment felt unfamiliar. Amara sat in the dark, replaying his smiles, his promises, his quiet humility. All of it now tainted by a truth too large to ignore. The door opened softly. Nathaniel stepped inside. I can explain, he said. Amara didn't turn around. You didn't just hide your job, she whispered. You hid your name, life, your world. Silence stretched between them, thick, unforgiving. You let me marry a stranger. And in that moment, the empire he'd built, and the love he'd risked everything for, stood on the edge of collapse. The apartment was too quiet. No sirens. No city noise. Just the hum of the refrigerator and the sound of Amara's breathing. Uneven, fragile, as if every inhale required permission. Nathaniel stood near the door. His suit jacket still on, tie loosened but not removed. He looked out of place in the dim, modest room, like a man who had brought a storm into a space built for calm. Amara sat on the edge of the couch, her back straight, her hands clenched so tightly her knuckles had gone white. She hadn't cried yet. That frightened him more than anger ever could. I can explain, he said again, softer this time. She laughed once, a broken sound with no humor in it. You've been explaining your life to the world today, she said quietly. Go on. Explain it to your wife. Nathaniel swallowed. My real name is Nathaniel Crowe, he began. I'm the CEO of Crowe Medical Holdings. I left that life years ago. Changed my name. I became a paramedic because I needed to breathe again. I needed to be human. Amara finally turned to look at him. Human, she echoed. You think lying to me made you human? Her eyes burned, not with tears but betrayal. I didn't tell you because I was afraid, he said. Afraid that if you knew, you'd never see me the same way. She stood abruptly, the movement sharp. You didn't give me the choice, she said. You decided for me. You let me believe we were struggling. You let me think love meant sacrifice. My sacrifice. That wasn't my intention. But it was the result, she snapped. The walls seemed to close in. You watched me count money, she continued. You watched me worry about rent. You let me feel guilty for wanting more than we could afford, while you were sitting on a fortune. Her voice cracked. I married you thinking we were equals. Nathaniel stepped closer. We were. We are. No, she whispered. We were a lie. He dropped to his knees in front of her. CO. There. Reduced to a man desperate not to lose the only truth he had ever known. I love you, he said, voice breaking. Everything I am with you is real. Every laugh, every night, every promise. Amara stared down at him. I believe you loved me, she said softly. That's what makes this hurt more. Tears finally fell, slow, silent. You don't understand what you took from me, she continued. I trusted you. I trusted my own judgment. Now I don't know which memories are real, and which were staged. I never staged loving you, he whispered. But you staged yourself. The words landed like a final blow. Nathaniel reached for her hand. She pulled away. The rejection was physical, sharp enough to steal his breath. I need space, she said. I need to remember who I am without you rewriting my reality. He nodded slowly. Take all the time you need, he said. I'll be here. She shook her head. No, you won't. She stood, walked past him, and began packing a small bag with shaking hands. Nathaniel didn't stop her, because forcing love was just another kind of lie. At the door, Amara paused. Did you ever think of telling me? She asked without turning around. Every day, he answered. Then why didn't you? Because the moment I told you, he said, I knew I'd risk losing you. She closed her eyes. And now, I've lost you anyway. She opened the door. Goodbye, Nathaniel. Not Ethan. Not the man she married. The truth. The door shut with a soft click that echoed louder than any argument. Nathaniel stood alone in the apartment, surrounded by a life he had built honestly, on a foundation of deception. Outside, Amara walked into the night, tears finally breaking free. Love hadn't failed them. The truth had come too late. The world found out before Amara had time to breathe. By morning, her name was everywhere. Bakery owner secretly married to billionaire CEO. Paramedic husband revealed as medical tycoon. Love story or calculated deception. Cameras appeared outside her bakery before sunrise. Reporters asked questions she didn't know how to answer. Strangers speculated about her motives, her intelligence, her heart. She stopped opening the shop. She stopped answering her phone. She moved into her friend Lila's spare room, where the curtains stayed drawn and the TV remained off. But even in silence, the noise followed her, echoing through her thoughts, through every memory she replayed and no longer trusted. She missed him. That truth hurt almost as much as the betrayal. Across the city, Nathaniel Crowe stood behind a podium, the weight of an empire on his shoulders and the absence of his wife in his chest. Flashes burst like lightning. "I will not comment on my marriage," he said calmly. "My wife deserves privacy." But the board demanded distance. Investors wanted reassurance. They wanted a clean image. Nathaniel gave them none. He wore his wedding ring into meetings. Corrected reporters who referred to Amara as his former wife. "She is my wife," he said. "Whether she chooses me or not." The words weren't strategy. They were truth. Amara tried to rebuild normalcy. She returned to the bakery before dawn, hoping to avoid the press. But customers whispered. Some smiled with curiosity. Others looked at her like she had committed a crime. A tabloid headline waited on the counter one morning. Did she know all along? Her hands shook as she crumpled it. That night, exhaustion caught up with her. She collapsed behind the counter, feverish and dizzy. At the hospital, a nurse recognized her name. "Your husband," the nurse began. Amara closed her eyes. "Please don't." But fate is persistent. The paramedic assigned to her room spoke quietly as he checked her vitals. "He never stopped calling," he said. "He asks about you. Every shift." Amara turned her face away, tears soaking the pillow. Nathaniel watched her from a distance. He never crossed the line she had drawn. But he paid her bakery's debts anonymously. Redirected press attention. Threatened lawsuits to protect her privacy. He remembered how she took her coffee. How she hummed while baking. How she loved quietly, fiercely. Every night, he sat alone in their apartment, the silence unbearable. Love, he learned, was loudest when it was missing. One evening, Amara found a note slipped under her bakery door. No signature. Just familiar handwriting. "I don't need forgiveness. I don't need understanding. I just need you safe." Her chest tightened. She pressed the note to her heart. And for the first time since she left, she whispered his name. Not in anger but in longing. They lived in parallel worlds. Connected by memory. Separated by truth. And neither knew how much longer they could survive without the other. The rain returned the night Amara finally agreed to see him. It fell softly at first, tapping against the cafe windows like a hesitant apology, then harder, as if the sky itself was gathering courage. Nathaniel was already there when she arrived. No suit. No security. No polished image. Just a man in a worn jacket, sitting at a corner table with his hands folded tightly together, like he was afraid they might shake apart. He stood when he saw her. "Thank you for coming," he said quietly. She didn't sit right away. "I'm not here to forgive you," Amara said. "I'm here because I'm tired of not knowing where the truth ends." Nathaniel nodded. "That's fair." He sat. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then Nathaniel inhaled slowly and began, not with explanations but with confession. "My parents never loved each other," he said. "They respected power. They respected appearances. And they destroyed everything else. Amara watched him carefully. I grew up believing love was a negotiation, he continued. Something you traded for security. Every person who came close to me wanted something. Access, money, protection. His voice cracked. So when I walked away from the company, it wasn't rebellion. It was survival. He told her everything. How he changed his name. How he trained as a paramedic in a city where no one knew him. How saving strangers made him feel clean again. And then I met you, he said. You didn't ask who I was. You asked if my shift had been hard. Amara swallowed. I didn't tell you because the lie grew, he said. Not because I planned it, but because I was afraid the truth would cost me the only thing that ever felt real. Tears slipped down his face unchecked. I loved you as Ethan, he said. But I was hiding as Nathaniel. Amara's voice was steady, but only because she was holding herself together by force. You took my choice away, she said. Do you understand that? Yes, he answered immediately. And I will regret that for the rest of my life. She looked down at her hands. Every memory feels corrupted, she whispered. I don't know what parts of my marriage were real. Nathaniel leaned forward, not touching her, but close enough that she could feel the truth in his presence. All of them, he said. Every laugh, every argument, every night you fell asleep on my chest. None of that was bought. None of it was fake. She closed her eyes, tears escaping despite herself. Why the paramedic job? She asked. Because lives don't care who you are, he replied. They just need you to show up. Silence followed, thick, heavy, sacred. Then Amara spoke the words she had been afraid to admit. I still love you. Nathaniel's breath caught. But love doesn't erase betrayal, she continued. And forgiveness doesn't mean pretending it didn't happen. He nodded. I don't want erasure. I want accountability. He slid something across the table. Documents. What is this? She asked. My resignation, he said. From the board. Her head snapped up. I'm not choosing wealth or power, he said. I'm choosing truth. Even if it costs me everything. Her heart pounded. This isn't a gesture, he added. This is who I am now. No more hiding. Amara stood slowly. I don't know if I can come back, she said honestly. I know, Nathaniel replied. But I will wait. Not as a CEO. Not as a savior. He met her eyes. Only as the man who loves you, with nothing to offer but truth. She nodded once. Then she walked away. Not in anger, not in fear, but in clarity. And for the first time since the lie shattered everything, both of them were finally standing on solid ground. Forgiveness did not arrive with certainty. It arrived in fragments. In quiet mornings where Amara caught herself reaching for her phone, wondering if Nathaniel had slept. In evenings when the bakery felt emptier than it ever had before. In the realization that love, once awakened, never truly returns to sleep. Nathaniel kept his promise. He did not call. He did not pressure. He did not perform grand gestures meant for headlines. Instead he waited. And the world noticed. The boardroom erupted when news of his resignation leaked. You're throwing away a legacy, one director snapped. You're destabilizing the company, another warned. Over a woman. Someone scoffed. Nathaniel didn't raise his voice. I'm correcting a lie, he said. And if this company can't survive honesty, it doesn't deserve to. The room fell silent. For the first time, Crowe Medical Holdings was forced to reckon with a leader who would not sacrifice his humanity to protect power. Amara watched the press conference from behind the bakery counter. Nathaniel stood at the podium, not in a suit, but in a simple jacket. No arrogance. No defenses. I hid who I was, he said publicly. Not because I was ashamed of my work, but because I was afraid of losing the one person who loved me without conditions. Cameras flashed. My wife owes me nothing, he continued. But she deserves the truth. And so does the world. Amara's chest tightened. This wasn't damage control. This was risk. That night she went to him. No announcement. No audience. She knocked on the apartment door they once shared. Nathaniel opened it slowly, disbelief flooding his face. "I'm not here because everything is fixed," Amara said. "I'm here because running from love is starting to hurt more than facing it." His voice trembled. "I don't deserve." She stepped inside. "I'm not offering forgiveness," she said. "I'm offering a chance." Tears welled in his eyes. He nodded, unable to speak. They started over carefully. Not as husband and wife, but as two people relearning trust. Long conversations. Painful honesty. Boundaries that felt foreign but necessary. Nathaniel returned to the ambulance on weekends. Not as escape, but as truth. Amara watched him save lives again, and this time she saw the whole man. Not hidden. Not divided. The world tried to interfere. Headlines questioned her choice. Analysts mocked his decision. Friends warned her of risk. But love had never been safe. It had only ever been brave. When Nathaniel took her hand publicly for the first time since the scandal, the cameras went wild. Amara didn't flinch. She squeezed his fingers and stood taller. That night, they sat on the same rooftop where he had proposed years before. "I'm afraid," Amara admitted. "So am I," Nathaniel said. They smiled softly. "But this time," she added, "we're afraid together." He kissed her not as a CEO, not as a savior, but as the man she chose again. Healing did not come all at once. It arrived slowly, like light creeping into a room long kept dark. Amara and Nathaniel rebuilt their marriage in the smallest, most ordinary ways. Morning coffee shared without hurry. Evenings spent in silence that no longer felt heavy. Conversations where truth was no longer guarded, but offered freely. They did not rush forgiveness. They earned it. Nathaniel no longer lived between two worlds. He worked part-time as a paramedic again. His hands steady, his purpose clear. Crowe Medical Holdings continued without him. Restructured, changed, no longer anchored to a single name. And for the first time in his life, Nathaniel felt free. The bakery flourished again. Not because of money. Not because of headlines. But because Amara poured herself back into it, with joy instead of fear. Customers returned for warmth, not curiosity. The cameras faded. The world moved on. But love stayed. One quiet afternoon, Amara watched Nathaniel through the bakery window as he laughed with a child he'd just helped after a minor accident. No uniform. No title. Just kindness. She realized then something she hadn't before. She never married a paramedic. She never married a CEO. She married a man who showed up. Years later they returned to the rooftop. The city looked different. Softer, wiser. Nathaniel slipped a new ring onto her finger. Not as a replacement but as a promise renewed. "This one comes with no secrets," he said. Amara smiled, tears in her eyes. "I don't need titles," she replied. "I need truth." They kissed as the sun dipped below the skyline. Not dramatic, not loud, but certain. Their story was never about wealth or deception. It was about courage. The courage to walk away from power. The courage to face betrayal without bitterness. The courage to choose love. Not once but again and again. And if anyone ever asked who Nathaniel Crowe truly was, Amara would answer simply, "He's the man I married." Thank you for watching LovexRomancexRevenge, where love is tested, truth is revealed, and hearts are rebuilt stronger than before. If this story moved you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share, because the next unforgettable romance is already waiting.